Today, we're digging into an architectural vision so ambitious, so powerful, that it didn't just build palaces, it built an entire nation that has lasted for millennia. We're talking about the master plan, the blueprint for ancient China.
And at the very center of this grand design is one man, Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. But, just calling him a ruler or a conqueror doesn't even begin to cover it. He was a master builder, an architect of reality itself. His vision wasn't just about ruling a kingdom on earth, but about constructing a permanent empire for himself, one for this life and an even grander one for the next.
So, that's the big question, right? It's one thing to have this incredible vision of eternal power, but how do you actually build it? How do you take an idea like that and turn it into wood, earth, and stone? Well, to figure that out, we have to start with the fundamental building blocks his architects had at their disposal.
Right. So before we can even begin to grasp the emperor's mind-bogglingly huge projects, we first need to understand the architectural toolkit they were working with. These are the core principles that made everything else possible.
Okay, let's zoom in on the absolute core technology. This right here is the tenon mortise joint, and it was basically the secret sauce of ancient Chinese construction. Forget nails, forget glue. Builders would carve these incredibly precise, interlocking pieces of wood that fit together perfectly. This made the frames not only super strong, but also flexible enough to absorb the shock from earthquakes, which is why some of these buildings are still standing today. And because of that amazing joint system, wood became the material of choice. I mean, sure, it was easy to get, but the real game changer was speed. Because all the components were standardized, they could be mass-produced somewhere else and then just assembled on site. It was like an ancient form of prefab construction. This meant you could throw up a massive palace in a fraction of the time it took to build, say, a stone cathedral in Europe. And if a piece ever got damaged, easy, you just swap it out.
But this was never just about engineering. The entire blueprint was built on a deep, deep philosophical foundation. Things like feng shui meant that buildings had to be in harmony with nature, and their cosmology demanded that the human world be a perfect mirror of the heavens. This directly translated into design. You see cities laid out on a strict north-south axis to reflect the cosmic order. And where was the emperor's palace? Smack dab in the center, physically and symbolically, reinforcing his role as the crucial link between heaven and earth.
Okay, so now that we have the toolkit, this mix of advanced woodworking and profound philosophy, how did Qin Shi Huang take these ideas and scale them up? Because he wasn't just thinking about one building, he was thinking about an entire nation.
So after conquering all the warring states, the first emperor knew he needed more than just new laws to hold everything together. He needed infrastructure. So he launched this massive project to build a huge network of roads, all of them leading directly back to his capital. It was literally an architectural web of control, designed for trade, communication, and moving his armies at lightning speed.
And then, of course, there was his most famous project. To protect his new empire from invaders to the north, he began connecting existing walls into what would become the Great Wall. The scale of this is just hard to comprehend. We're talking 5,000 kilometers of compacted earth, a project so enormous it was built by an estimated 1 million enslaved people. And the wall wasn't just a big barrier. It was a brilliant piece of communication technology. It was basically an information superhighway. These watchtowers were built within sight of each other, so a message could be relayed across hundreds of miles in just a few hours. A fire signal at night or smoke during the day created this incredibly sophisticated alarm system. It was truly a network built for defense.
So with his earthly empire secured by roads and walls, the emperor turned his gaze inward to his most personal, most ambitious project of all, the one he planned to live in forever. And this was not just going to be a tomb. No way. It was designed to be an entire cosmos, living cosmos, built to last for all of eternity.
The sheer scale of this place is just breathtaking. It's a literal replica of his entire empire, just built for the afterlife. And this table, it really only scratches the surface. We're talking pits with his personal bronze chariots, pits representing the imperial stables, complete with the real skeletons of horses, and even tombs for his most important officials, who were expected to keep serving him after they died. Every single detail of his worldly power was painstakingly recreated for the next life.
And the level of detail gets even crazier. Get this, in one newly discovered pit, archaeologists didn't find soldiers, but tens of thousands of miniature armor suits carved from stone. The current theory is that these weren't for the terracotta warriors, but for the actual spirits of his own soldiers who had died violently in battle. By giving their souls armor, he was making sure they wouldn't become angry ghosts, but would instead remain his loyal army in the afterlife. Just incredible.
And at the very heart of it all, inside the central tomb that is still sealed, lies the ultimate architectural statement. The ancient historian Sima Qian wrote that the emperor had the entire map of China recreated underground, with rivers and oceans made of flowing mercury. He literally built the entire world in miniature just for himself.
But here's what's really amazing. The emperor's blueprint, it didn't get buried with him. Not at all. In fact, these fundamental principles would become the very foundation of Chinese architecture for the next 2,000 years.
And this slide just illustrates that legacy perfectly. Just look at the comparison. On the left, you have the grand layout of an imperial capital like Beijing. On the right, a traditional family courtyard home. But the principles, they are exactly the same. You've got the same strict north-south axis, the same use of walls and buildings to enclose a private world, the same sense of hierarchy with the most important building in the most commanding position. It's the emperor's grand blueprint for a city, just perfectly scaled down to the family level.
So, in the end, the first emperor's incredible projects were really the ultimate expression of an architectural philosophy that would go on to define a whole civilization. This unique architectural DNA, this blend of natural harmony, cosmic order, and centralized power, was copied for 2 millennia in everything from the grandest imperial palaces to the most humble homes.
And that brings us to one last, tantalizing thought. After everything we found, the very heart of the emperor's grand vision, that central tomb chamber with its rivers of mercury, has never been opened. It's still sealed, 2,200 years later. And it just makes you wonder, what other secrets of this incredible architectural blueprint are still waiting down there to be discovered?